As most of you may know, I am a disaster reader and I read too many books at the same time, actually resulting in me being confused and overwhelmed and like not knowing what is going on, and yet I must somehow like it because I keep doing it. I keep on doing it. So something about reading a gazillion books at the same time seems to be working for me. So hi everyone and welcome back to a new video on my channel. Today we're going to be talking about everything that I'm currently reading. So I keep thinking about changing my ways, reforming myself to a single book at a time reader that's organized and makes like TBRs and stuff. But yeah, I guess that's not me. So today we're going to be talking about all of the 5 books that I'm reading currently. I have this really weird thing that I feel like I'm only actually reading a book when I've logged it on Goodreads, which is very weird. It's just like, I feel like it's not existing. Like, I'm not actually reading it until I've logged it. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that says about me. But so a lot of times I won't log it until I'm like sure I'll finish it. But with some books you just don't know. So a lot of these I'm not sure if I'll actually finish them. Well, one mostly. I'm like, I don't know if I'll finish it, or maybe I'll put it aside for another time. Anyway, let's get to talking about these books. The first book I've been reading for the longest, and that is Emma by Jane Austen. I wanted to read more classics, so I picked up Emma. Did I read and finish Emma? No, I did not. I'm on page... What page am I on? I'm on page 125. I've been on page 125 for a very, very long time. I like this book, and I think it's one of the easiest classics, which makes me feel dumb because this is still not a super easy read for me, mostly because there's just really nothing happening. So I have to be in a mood where I want to read about characters not really doing anything and just sitting around and squabbling with each other about things that don't really matter that much, actually. And I do have that mood every now and then, but just not very often. However, I am liking it. It's basically about Emma Woodhouse, who's sort of a bored rich girl, basically. She's just meddling in everybody's life. Like, that's the best way I could possibly describe this book. Emma's just a nosy girl, and she's meddling. She's meddling everywhere. She's meddling where she possibly should not meddle at all. She's ruining people's marriages, she's telling people what to do, and she's meddling. I like the way that she's such a nuanced character that you're not supposed to like. I don't know, are we supposed to like Emma? I kind of do, because I'm also very nosy. She's trying to make everything better for everybody. Like, she's genuinely trying, but like her own short-sightedness makes it so that she's not actually always making the situation better. I like this book, and I think I will finish it, but maybe it will take years because I have to be in that specific mood where I want to read about characters sitting around and drinking tea and arguing about Emma's meddling, basically. Or witnessing the actual meddling. I've said the word meddling so many times now, it's lost its meaning. So we are moving on to the next book I'm still reading. The English book has a different title and I just keep forgetting it. I think it's Special Topics in Calamity Physics. But the Dutch title is Calamiteitsleer voor Gevorderden, which basically means calamity physics for pros. That's the way we translated it. I don't know why we did that. This book, it's a brick of a book. It's really big. I think it's too many pages. I like this book, but it has too many pages. I'm sorry. It's just objectively seen. Too many pages. Almost 560 pages. That's entirely too much. This is also just a very slow book, which is why I keep putting it down. I am quite far in, actually. So I have good faith that I'll finish it. I just don't know when. I think it will be a relief when I finally finish this book because I've just been reading it for months on end. Everything's very slow in this book, and a lot of times the descriptions can be a bit tiresome because Marisha Pessl writes very descriptive, but like she compares a lot of things she sees to other things, which is nice and cool, and the prose is beautiful, but sometimes it just gets really tiring and I just want to put it down. This is very dark academia. If you love Donna Tartt, I just want to throw this book at your face. Well, I don't want to hurt you. I'm so sorry. I mean that I think you would like this if you like books that are described on the back as erudite, which this one is. It's just a very dark academia book. It's about a girl and this film studies professor, and she has this little group, like that happens in dark academia books. She has this little group of students that she invites for dinner parties at her house, even though she's a fully grown woman, and she's spending time with high school kids outside of school, which is suspicious if you ask me. And they sneak in at a party at her house at some point, and they do all sorts of things that are not okay. And I think the one super interesting thing about this book is that all the characters are very twisted. All the characters have had weird histories and are just strange and very, very interesting. And that's what keeps me coming back because it's so intriguing. There's a trigger warning for suicide though. There's also a lot of booze, being drunk in this book. We know at the beginning of this book that the teacher that has this little group ends up dying. So we know something is going to go down, but we do not know what exactly. It's supposedly a suicide, but I think the main character's like not agreeing with it. Not entirely sure where it's gonna go. Yeah, but I liked it. When I started reading it, I was like, oh my god, the prose is beautiful. This is my new favourite thing. But like I said, it got a bit tiresome because it's all very, very descriptive. That's this one. And I did put this down actually because I started reading Throne of Glass because my friends had this group chat about Throne of Glass in which we're just basically like shitting on the book, but also sharing our experiences and stuff like that. And that brings me to today's sponsor, which is Byzance, which is a book app. And in this app, you can join chats to chat about the book you're currently reading or one of your favourite books that you've read already. And that's basically what I did with my friends, but then on a book app. I've tried it out for a bit. It's really, really cool. I'm actually genuinely very excited about it because it's just so cool to be able to add your favorite book. For example, I added The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and then I took a look in the chat and I found some people to chat with it. I also spent some time in the chat for Know My Name by Chanel Miller, which was really cool as well. I got to see what other people thought about this book, and actually quite like a few minutes after I put something in the chat, a few people were replying and we got to discuss the book for a bit, which is just really, really cool. So there's different chat rooms for if you've read the book and if you've not read the book yet, so if you're currently reading it, so that way you don't get any spoilers. It's done in a way that you can also take a peek in the chat room for when you finish the book, and the spoilers will be all blocked, which is a really cool function. And it's just really fun to be sharing all these different ideas and to be chatting to other bookworms. You can add me on the app as well if you'd like, because now I have a whopping amount of 2 friends, which is very sad. So you can add me if you'd like. So don't forget to check out the app with the link in my description, and also add me and come chat to me about your favourite book, maybe, possibly. And also a huge thank you again to Byzance for sponsoring this video and making it possible for me to keep creating content about books on YouTube, which is really cool. So that was just a little sponsor bit. Thank you so much for watching it. And now let's move on to the next book I'm currently reading, which is Miss Don't Touch Me, which is a graphic novel. It had been a while since I read a graphic novel, so I was really happy that I picked this one up. I started it this morning. I just always love reading graphic novels in between when I'm not sure what to read and I just want like a quick pick-me-up. That's when I gravitate towards those type of books. This story is about Blanche and her sister Agatha, and it's set in Paris. Need I say more? We love a good graphic novel set in Paris. Oh, Paris, oui, oui, c'est bien. My French is not what it used to be. Recently, I've been thinking about learning French again because I really want to, but I have no time. That is not what this video is about though, so let's get back to the book. So this graphic novel has a really nice illustration style. It's sort of more loose than what I'm used to. It has like these really graphite lines and it's very colourful. It has this warm scheme and then this colder scheme, lots of purples and reds. Very, very beautiful to look at. And I also like that there's a lot of people with pointy noses in this. I don't know, it just kind of makes for a very Parisian style. I also love spotting some of the Paris settings, although most of it's indoor and is also historical, so it's not the Paris of right now. But the indoor settings of like the Parisian walls and like the candelabras and stuff like that, it's all really beautiful. So we follow 2 sisters. Basically, they are working in a hotel, but then one night Blanche sees a murder through the wall in their little room. And she's very shocked. She immediately runs off to tell her sister, and her sister's like, Blanche, you're making it up because there's been a serial killer on the loose. And Agatha knows that Blanche is very worried. So she's like, you're just overthinking, you're just being very worried where you shouldn't be very worried. So she goes to the room and looks through the hall, and then she gets shot through the hole in the wall because there was actually a killer behind the hole in the wall. So Agatha gets killed. So Blanche is absolutely losing it at this point. She's like feral and she's like, oh my god, what do I do now? And basically she gets fired because of the scandal of the murdered girl, because they frame it as a suicide, which is horrible. So then Blanche goes off on a sort of mission to prove that Agatha was killed and did not kill herself. And she does this by joining a brothel and sort of gossiping with the sex workers and trying to find out what happened to one sex worker who was killed, who was from that brothel. The art style is really cool. Some of the things happening in this book though are super dodgy. I'm not entirely sure what is going on at some points because there's just like different plot lines and different characters, and I'm like, lots of horrible things are happening in this book, especially to the other sex workers. But I like the historical setting. I love the mystery. I think Blanche is a very interesting main character because she's super, super flawed. She's like not perfect at all. She's kind of angry all of the time. She's very worrisome, but at the same time, she's super fierce. She's kind of mean. Like, she's very mean and ruthless as well, which is cool to read about. She's also confused about a lot of things, and she's just upset in general. I'm not sure how I feel about the one trans character in this book. It feels kind of like they're just sort of a set piece because they're trans, they're in this brothel. I don't feel like it will be a huge favourite though, but I am enjoying it. Then another book I'm currently reading is Headlight van Ariane by Petra Dom, which is a Dutch book, like you heard. It was written by a Belgian author, and I'm very excited about this because there's not a lot of Dutch fantasy coming onto the market, to be honest. So I mean written in Dutch, because obviously this author is Belgian. So that's just really cool. I always want to support an author like that is from the Netherlands or Belgium, because there should be more Dutch written fantasy. That would just be cool, because I hope to maybe possibly also write fantasy one day, even though I'm working on different things now, but you know, multifaceted girl. So far, this is really, really interesting. Let me just freely translate the title for you. It's basically called The Song of Ariane. So it's about this sort of world that has magic that is infused with music and songs, and there's also monsters. It's set in Paris as well. There's this sort of elite group of students, and then there's this girl that's discovering about this other world and about this group of students. And I'm only on chapter 2, so there's not a lot of things I can say about this book, but the setting is cool. I love Paris. I'm reading multiple Paris books right now. I didn't even realize that. The main character seems cool. I always love a good urban fantasy where it's both the real world and the fantasy world, and I've never really read a book that was sort of about music magic, so I think the magic system could potentially also be really interesting in this one. So all in all, sounds really cool and very interesting. Then the fifth and final book I'm currently reading is called The Witches of New York by Amy McKay. I'm very, very, very sure I will finish this book because I only have 10% left to go, which I'm very happy about. Yesterday, I started this sort of listening purge of this book. I was like, I need to finish it now. I'm going through the audiobook and I will actually finish it. This book really had me at the beginning, but then I quit to also go on and read Throne of Glass. And then after that, I just felt like every time I got back to the book, it was sort of long-winded. Like the scenes I was reading, they weren't cutting to the chase. So the tension kind of got lost. The tension that was there because of conflict or because of just the plot kind of got lost because everybody was like really meandering, which just got very annoying to me. So this is basically about 3 characters and they're all witches, which we love. We follow Beatrice, who's basically moving from the countryside to New York to join a magical tea shop. And she's becoming the new shop girl. And the owners of this tea shop are Eleanor and Adelaide. And Eleanor is also queer, which is really cool to read about. Adelaide does fortune telling and Eleanor does also something, but I just can't think of it right now. But they're both witches basically, and they both do magic through the tea shop and they help other patrons at the tea shop with their magic as well. And Beatrice doesn't really have any magic at the beginning of this book, but then throughout the book she learns to communicate with ghosts, and it turns out she has this gift for communicating with ghosts. And so there's a lot of talk of ghosts. It's very atmospherical. It's very like historical, New York, spooky, you know, which I'm really enjoying. The atmosphere is absolutely wonderful. But I just noticed in this book that a lot of times when something scary is happening, because there's also a serial killer on the loose, and we follow scenes following him, but also his victims, the ghosts of his victims. So there's a lot of POVs that kind of are confusing at times, but also make it interesting. But then in some really like high tension scenes, sometimes we just go and focus on things that are not that important. Like she'll be describing a cup of tea on a table when actually there's somebody being kidnapped next door, and I'm just like, why was this choice made? So that's confusing to me, and this seems to be happening especially more towards the end, which is just a pity, I think. And I'm also kind of confused about the overarching plot. Like, what is actually the sort of use of this book now at the end? Like, what is the message? I'm not sure. Despite all of that, I'm loving the atmosphere. I like all of the characters, and I love sort of the lore and kind of the fantasy elements of this book, because there's also these creatures that go into dreams, and there's also these demons, there's an evil reverend, so there's like all of these really interesting characters and very interesting magic aspects that I absolutely love. And I also love that I found another historical fantasy, because I really enjoy reading those and I don't read them enough. So yeah, all in all, I am enjoying this book. I think I'm leaning towards like 3.5 or 4 stars right now, so that's still a pretty good rating. So those are all the books that I'm currently reading. I really hope you enjoyed this video and maybe I gave you some inspiration for your reading. Let me know what you're currently reading and leave some cozy emojis in the comments down below if you don't know what to comment. And don't forget to check out the Byzance app and be my friends. And thank you so much to Byzance again for sponsoring this video. And yeah, I'll see all of you next time. Have a lovely day. Bye!